Hey guys, first impressions are important. I wonder what yours would be if you saw this. I know what you're thinking. Who is this strange looking tattoo man in this amazing shot? Well, don't lie, because this shot looks like more ass than Kim Kardashian in a hall of mirrors. But how about this? A bit better? Well, today I'm going to show you how to get the best results out of your ZV1 in a controlled space like a studio or living room. We are going to cover framing, white balance, best settings for ISO and shutter, best settings for aperture and other tips to maximize your beautiful blurry background bokeh, plus quick tips on lighting and color grading. Just before we start, if the video ends up being enjoyable or helpful, then a like, subscribe and share would be amazing, and your questions are super welcome in the comments. Plus, did you know 82% of my subscribers have not been attacked by a duck or goose in the last year? So if you want that kind of aquatic bird safety, then jump on board. Ready? Then let's go. Like a Bob Hoskins movie involving Roger Rabbit, framing is a key element of a good studio shot. So let's start with how you see, control, and get consistent shots with your framing. First, I recommend getting a simple tripod or similar to mount your ZV1 to, and at the very least a stable flat surface. Next, let's line up our shot. Menu number 2, tab number 7 has an option called grid lines, which is going to help us to do this. I like to use the diagonal plus square grid option to most easily see what is in each part of the frame. You will likely want to get yourself or your subject into the center of the frame where the lines meet, or alternatively line up the grid lines with some other part of your shot which is easy for you to replicate. This will give you consistency between shots, which is especially important if you're the kind of idiot who would want to do a ridiculous hat montage. Want to make your shot wider or tighter? You can control this a little with the cropping you get with the ZV1 in different modes. If you don't need 4K, then 1080p will give you a slightly wider shot. Standard steady shot is also wider than active steady shot. Here you can see 1080p standard steady shot, then active steady shot, and now 4K standard steady shot, then active steady shot. These are your easiest options for changing the field of view within the camera. All these things can be set up as shortcuts for quick access. Check out my 5 tips video linked in the description if you want to know how. Maybe you want a wider shot because you've got more space to show off. Well, Captain Fancy, a wide-angle lens like this one can help you achieve that. Want to know more about wide-angle lenses for the ZV1, which, by the way, are great for handheld vlogging? Then check out the videos in the description. If you want a tighter shot, then you could zoom in, but personally, I don't recommend this. Zooming on the ZV1 isn't super precise, which makes consistency of shots harder to achieve. Plus, as you zoom in, you're forced to increase the aperture from f1.8 to at least f2.8. That reduces your focal depth and reduces the beautiful blurry background bokeh. Speaking of consistency, I recommend setting a custom white balance. But why, I hear you ask? Well, with auto white balance, the camera can dynamically adjust its white balance in between shots or even as you are recording. And that means that your colors can change in between shots or even as you are recording, which makes matching shots and editing much tougher. We set custom white balance from menu 1, tab 9, white balance. Navigate to the options custom 1, 2, or 3, then press right on the control wheel and enter to select set. Then get a white piece of paper or the middle of a grey card and position it where the small square appears on your ZV1 screen and press enter. And boom, white balance better than a polar bear standing on one leg. Next up is setting ISO. Now, some say it stands for Internet Shoe Opinion, but what we know for sure is it controls your camera's sensitivity to light. However, higher ISO settings also increase digital image noise, so I recommend keeping your ISO as low as possible and getting the correct exposure in your studio environment using lighting. Next up, setting shutter. Silly. Hey, I said shutter, not mutter. 2 key things to consider here: light flicker and motion blur. There is a more detailed explanation of light flicker in my low light video linked in the description, but for right now, let's do the short version. Some lights powered by mains electricity are not actually continuous. They flicker faster than our eyes can detect, but not faster than a camera sensor. And if your shutter speed is out of sync with the speed of that flickering, you're going to get a strobing effect, which is less attractive than Donald Trump in latex horror. shot pans. In the UK, power is at 50 Hz, so set your shutter to 1/50 to sync it up and remove the light flicker. The USA uses 60 Hz electricity, so 1/60 shutter may be what you need, and most countries in the world use one of these two standards. So check what shutter you need to ensure your lights don't have any weird flicker, and if you can, use a continuous light source like this LED ring light or a portable LED mini light. And if you use a continuous light, then flicker shouldn't be an issue, but consideration 2, motion blur will be. Slower shutter gives you more motion blur, and faster shutter gives you less. I'd recommend still using a shutter around 1/50 to give people the sort of natural looking motion blur that they're accustomed to from movies. Much slower and you'll leave trails, like some kind of vlogging snail. Much faster and your movement will be more jerky than the consumer of a coffee, cocaine, Coca-Cola cocktail. That was a lot of C words, but not the rude one. To say that, I'd have to be a real stupid cunt. How about some B words instead with some beautiful blurry background bokeh? First, we're going to set the aperture as wide as we can on our ZV1, which means the lowest f number of f1.8. Wider aperture means more shallow focal depth and a bigger contrast between the in-focus subject and the out-of-focus background. So we want the widest to have the most bountiful bokeh. We can further enhance bokeh with two other simple things. First, maximize the distance between you and your background. The further away objects are behind you, the more they're going to blur and the more attractive the shot will look. Second, consider adding some small lights to the back of your shot. Bokeh is particularly noticeable on lights and, like our first tip, gets more pronounced the further back they are from your subject. You didn't think I had these fairy lights just to reinforce my masculinity, did you? Thankfully, they are not only more alpha than 80s Schwarzenegger, but also boost the beautiful blurry background bokeh. And they're nice for the feng shui of the room. Anyway, beyond fairy lights, your wider lighting setup is important for getting the best shots you can in the space that you have. I'm no expert, but if you're interested in a future video on lighting tips, let me know down in the comments. Quick summary for now. I use continuous lighting from LED lights wherever possible. This ring light by EVCC is my main key light source. Behind me, on this side, I've got the Philips Hue Bloom smart light, which I can change the color of remotely. Set lights to pink.
I've sent the request.
And on this side, I rig up my portable LED by Wheelight on a little selfie stick tripod, which you may have seen in my 7 cheap but powerful accessories for the ZV1, video linked in the description. I set the portable light color to complement or match the Philips and position it out of shot to give me a nice color wash on this wall. I like the combined effect of all of my lighting, plus it helps to distract from this face. Speaking of color, our last tip extends beyond the camera settings and your environment to how you color grade when you edit. Color grading is a really useful tool for both enhancing your shots and giving them your own visual style. This is how I look ungraded, and this is the color grade slowly wiping in. I like to add a bit more contrast and pull down the midtones to give me more separation from my background and also give the shots a bit of a moody look, which I feel works nicely with this blue. I am planning a quick video on how to work with and color grade HLG like you get in picture profile 10 of the ZV1 and in the new iPhone 12 range, so stay tuned if you're interested in that. Which brings us to the end for today. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, then a like, subscribe or share would be incredible, and please let me know your thoughts or any questions you have down in the comments. And so, until next time, take it easy.